So I got into this because I'm an educator, because I saw education cuts, and I saw that our representative was not well informed on things like cyber schools, on things like what funds are needed for in schools, and even on charter schools. So I'm not an enemy of charter schools, but I don't think that schools need to be competing against each other for their fair share of funding. I think we can do things better. I'm not an enemy of testing, but I do think that No Child Left Behind has not worked, and there are things we need to do to address that as well. And I don't believe in taking $1.4 billion away from our schools and giving them to businesses in tax cuts with the idea that it will trickle back down to schools, because that doesn't happen in our district. It just doesn't. So those are the things in terms of education. We could also talk about equity in educational funding, because downstate schools tend to get more money than our schools up here, and that's a problem. Why are their children more valuable, more investment than our children are, right? There are things like tuition. College tuition is too high in this state because we no longer subsidize it. We make the individual pay more for it. That's not how it was in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And I can tell you that because the last check I wrote for my grad school education was $700. When I tell that to my students at the community college level, their eyes fill with tears because they're in debt, and we need to address that. We need the 1% to start stepping up and paying their fair share, right? It's not that they owe us more, it's that they've taken more from us because they haven't been paying their share for years. So we need to regulate things better in terms of education. I'm also concerned about our environment, and standing here with this view, you see what we have here in northern Michigan. It's precious, and we can't afford to risk it. And I know that we have hard economic times, and I know that things like fracking might be appealing, and especially if you're worrying about how to make your mortgage or how to feed your kids. But we owe more to the land and to ourselves and to our quality of life and to just nature itself than to exploit it for economic gain. And we should be evolved enough to see that. Unfortunately, I don't think the Republicans always are. But we can give them a little bit of a jolt and show them that you can coexist. An economy can be strong, can actually not exploit, but use the environment. Ecotours, right? Small agriculture, forestry done wisely. Those kinds of things can help the economy. And then the third thing, so in the beginning I kind of separated the economy and the environment. And I'm not going to say that I know how to create jobs, because even economists don't know how to create jobs. Even, people with PhDs in economics can't, they argue about that all the time. But we can take care of ourselves. We can think regionally, we can live regionally, we can support our local businesses, and we can protect our environment, and we can make it profitable to do that, right? It just takes some hard work and some thinking. The last thing I put on my platform was veterans, because I'm married to a veteran. Michael here was a Marine Corps pilot for 6 years, and I was a reluctant wife during that time, but I do know what it's like to sit at the end of a phone and wait to make sure that your husband is, landed safely, which he didn't always do. But so I also kept track of the students in my classrooms who were veterans, and I know what they're going through. And one particular one stands in my mind. His name is Andrew. He came home, he volunteered right after 9/11. I think he was up at Lake State, and he joined, and he became a military policeman, and got stationed. The last place he was stationed was at Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay. The one thing he wanted to do was come home and have a viable job as a Michigan State police officer. Well, he's got that now. He's training. But he had to go to school for 2.5 years to be able to take the test to get into the Michigan State Troopers, right? That was wasted time for him. And I'm not saying that he paid the tuition, but the government did. And it's all a big boondoggle, and if we just had a system statewide of checking transcripts and taking military transcripts and converting them to academic transcripts, we could save a lot of money, a lot of toil, and a lot of time. So those are, just talk to a veteran about getting through Veterans Administration red tape and paperwork. We could, it's difficult. Those people, and they're not just young men, there are women too out there, they need our help. And they need our help in more ways than one. I don't know if you've noticed, but the post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injuries, they're huge. And if we don't deal with them now, we'll be dealing with them in an uglier way years from now. So those are some of the things that caused me to step into the